Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of Into the MoTaverse. Today I have Rahul Parwal, and he's been an amazing contributor to the MoTaverse over the past at least 2 years, maybe more. But he's completely embraced what we're doing. He's one of our star members, I would say, star advocate. He's been to MoTaCon, he's done masterclasses, he's written articles, and yeah, at any opportunity he gets, he always raises his hand. And here we are. He raised his hand for episode of Into the MoTaverse, and yeah, can't say no to Rahul ever. But yeah, welcome Rahul. It's good to have you.
Thank you, Rosie. Thank you, and the respect and the feeling that I have for the Motaverse is very high. I have gained a lot of things from Motaverse, from the people, from community, from the daily feedback that I get from Motaverse. Motaverse is like my testing loop. It's like my testing engine that helps me deliver better quality as a person. So I really respect Motaverse and everything from our various mediums, Slack, the platform, the awesome platform that Motaverse has now become, and the incredible opportunities for all model now that we have made for people. I think I love it. I love Motaverse.
Awesome, thank you. I appreciate that, and it's been a journey. The past couple of years or so, there's been a lot of change. I'm quite excited for it, like the things we're building, and like the chapters, and just the MOT profile and stars and all of that. It feels really positive. And I guess tying into what we're going to talk about, there's a lot of change happening, right? And I think like a lot of the reason we're changing is because I feel the world is just changing in many ways. But one of them is AI. But also, I think alongside AI kind of comes community. Is like there's almost this tension between people and AI,
Hmm.
and from my perspective, is like we need to come together as people to understand how we need to move forward, how we need to build perhaps bridges with other people in the company, in the teams, in the ecosystem. So whilst there's a big push for AI, which I love, but I also feel like it's really important to remember the people aspect. And I guess this is what we're trying to do. Is like as people, we are important. We have knowledge. We need to show care. We need to build the right thing. But yeah, our topic today we decided is to talk about leveling up with AI, with skills related to AI, and generally just trying to make sense of how do we navigate the world of AI. For me, as quality people, but equally thinking bigger and just thinking about the products we build in general. So this, for me, I'm thinking about AI for developers, AI for engineering managers, not just strictly quality. And I've been having many conversations with engineering managers as well, trying to understand their perspective and bringing that back to quality people as well. But yeah, from your perspective, how do you see AI today?
I mean, first, I see AI almost everywhere. I mean, at work, at even my home, with my parents, my even my grandparents are now using AI as a user, and that's
Excellent.
really amazing to know because they even ask me about like what AI tool should we use to create images and so on, and that's something that I'd never thought like some years back that even my grandparents will be adopting AI. The third thing is I hear it like on social media, on community platforms, and I think most of the events and things that are happening in the testing and quality space. I mean, the discussions have slowly started to revolve around AI in one way or the other. Interesting thing that as an industry I see is that lot of people want to now learn AI, but because there is so much noise and so much sources out there, people are also confused that what to do. There is a lot of imposter syndrome that is also there in people, that like, are we like really using AI the right way, and like what is the right way. And what I understand from my experimentation is that there is no right or wrong way. I mean, you have to do experiment. For example, I started my serious exploration of AI through this 30 days of AI in testing that we started at Ministry of Testing. But like we used to have like daily exercises for 30 days. I used to attempt an exercise, do a research of it. I used to make a mind map, a video, I used to upload it, and I used to get daily feedback. And that was my journey, how I started my journey. And when I did that sprint for 30 days, at the end of 30 days, I had like a lot of like good knowledge and experience, and like field stones to then navigate and like do my research. And there were some areas which I really liked, some areas which were like, okay, this is not for me right now, probably I'll look at it after a year or so. And that's how I started. Experimentation is really core. The second important part is like having a community is really really important. For example, I see AI as the peak of technical advancements, but at the same time I see community as a peak of human advancement. I mean, community is like the AI for humans. I mean, it's like the collective large language intelligence of humans. Without a community or without a support system, navigating this world is very very hard. It will get more and more noisy if you don't have the right people around you. That's why I love, for example, that initiative 30 days of testing. I love this idea of the AI chapter that we are creating, where like people can co-learn, partner together, do experiments, share their challenges, because everybody is just throwing resources. No, there is no space to like really dig deeper, or like talk about the real problems, the real challenges, the real context. And I think community is that space
Yeah.
where these discussions can happen. These discussions cannot happen just in the conferences listening to a speaker, or in a webinar listening to somebody. Community is the place where you like really do these real grounded discussions that are required. And that's one of the important thing. And like most of these tools are coming up with so much material on AI and so on, that anybody who wants to upskill, they will not be short of the materials, but they will probably be short of like, how do I structure it, how do I like now go ahead, and how do I keep my momentum running. And this is
Yeah.
even a problem that I face, who is like very much into AI, because like the moment I start something, and then like different threads, they pick on my mind, that should I now do this, should I do that. And like we are all bombarded with like so much of information from social media, from different channels and people around us. And I mean, yeah, finding focus is important.
And I think you also have to be careful of who you choose to listen to, right? Because I mean, that's something that I've definitely felt like a lot of the stories you don't know are true, or a lot of the stuff that is shared on social aren't actually true, or
Yes.
they're half truths maybe. Um, and yeah, it's just like difficult when I guess like everyone's talking about AI, so you feel like everyone's doing AI, but at the same time, I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think like if I look at our perspective, we've been thinking a lot about AI, but not actually doing a lot. It's only now that we're starting to confidently dive into it, because I felt like everything was just moving
Quick.
too fast. Or it's like as a small company, we don't want to adopt anything that's going to disappear in 6 months time,
Yes.
because then that becomes just a huge waste of money, a huge risk.
Yeah.
So we've kind of avoided going into it, but now we're experimenting with Claude as a team, partly from a community perspective, but also partly from a kind of back end code perspective. But you know, we're not panicking, I guess, is our approach. We're trying to think of like what's the safe way. Graham Sherry, who's like a CTO, his philosophy is like he wants to sleep at night. He
Yeah.
wants to be able to sleep easily at
Yeah.
night, and therefore, like the decisions that we make is like it has to help him sleep easily.
Yes.
And if it's causing any kind of stress, he's just like, nope, not doing it. And to me, that makes sense. It's like, how are we sleeping at night with the decisions we're making? But yeah, I guess how would you recommend today that people should start learning about AI? Where do they start if there's so much information out there? What would you recommend that someone does today to get going?
Yeah. So with so much information going on, and this so much is only going to increase with time. So the noise is not going to settle. I mean, it's only going to increase. You also talked about very important point that like a lot of information out there which is available or coming, it's not even true, or it's like half true, or like it's half baked. The reason for it is like a lot of it is like that comes on social media. Either it has some behind marketing agenda, somebody wants to sell something, and so on, or it's engineered to grab your attention, because attention is the currency of social media and all things. So I mean, people optimize for attention rather than for knowledge. But our field demands that we have good understanding and knowledge. And for that, one thing is always follow the primary sources, which means people who are either the creator of technology, people who have actually themselves done good hands-on or experimentation with this technology, or people who are right now like doing some live work which they are publishing to people out in the broader community. These are primary sources, like people who have like themselves done that and tasted it, or organizations who have themselves created it, and then made this information available out public. I try to follow that. For example, I'm a very big fan of the Claude University, or the Claude courses that they have come up. So like Anthropic has developed Claude, it has developed that ecosystem, and now it is coming up with like targeted course. For example, Anthropic came with MCP, or with the skills as a protocol and a concept. And it's best to understand it from people who have developed the technology, because nobody can know the concept better than the person who has developed it. What was their intent, what was the limitation that they were trying to solve, and what kind of problem does this solve. And we are living in an interesting times today, because that information is even accessible and available for free.
Yeah,
And this is like, the times have changed, because 20 years back, if somebody wants to learn from the creator of .NET technology or from Java, it was very hard. You could hardly probably even just get a book, and then like if you have doubts, you cannot talk to anybody and you're alone. But today, like, that layer is gone. You can find creators who have created the technology. You can go to the platforms who are doing awesome work in AI and learn directly from them. There is one channel which I follow a lot, which is AI engineer on YouTube. And what do they do is they do conferences where they invite like actual practitioners working in OpenAI or Anthropic or Grok, and like companies who are working on this foundational stuff, and then like practitioners from there, like they talk about the stuff, and like that is what I listen to understand a concept. And then, for example, I am somebody who is like then understanding it and then really applying it at work. And then my insights from the testing point of view, that how like that interaction with testing really happens, that is more of like a very fresh take, because then I have done it. But if you listen to a company who has hired a blog writer, or maybe who has probably deployed an AI agent to write articles, then like that's absolute noise. And then you probably will not get good things. So I mean, find primary sources, foundational sources, go deep, have a community, have a group of people who you do it, and then like be consistent. I mean, so you have to be
yeah,
consistent, and like it requires some thinking that like this is my goal for this week. At least have a weekly goals, and then like try to achieve them. Don't change goals daily.
Yeah, because it makes me think about some of the conversations that I've had. I guess like sometimes it can feel like, well, things are moving too fast. It's hard to keep up. But the trend that I've kind of noticed, I don't know if you felt this as well, is that like development has sped ahead, and then like everyone else is struggling to keep up with how development is trying to speed ahead. Um, and in a sense, that to me kind of feels wrong. It's like, why are you speeding ahead? You should slow down, wait, collaborate, not churn out so much code, or it's not all about the code, right? But it's like even engineering managers are struggling to keep up, or testers, designers. It's like, how do you adapt your processes to accommodate AI? And I feel like developers are speeding ahead, and they should slow down a bit and wait a bit for others to catch up. And maybe that's maybe that will happen like 2026, is we're going to start seeing more of that. It's like, now that we understand AI a bit more, and maybe, I'm not saying it's going to settle down, but it's like we can find our way in and figure out how best to implement testing practices or quality practices or design practices, or whatever your career is within tech. We all need that opportunity to put these processes in place, rather than assume that our knowledge is not important, because our knowledge and our experience is
It's
important, right?
important. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, when you say this, I mean, I recall this quote by Jerry Weinberg. He said that things are the way they are because they got that way. So whatever is happening right now, it's the way it is because like it got that way. One thing that I have noticed, and probably you would have also seen, is in last 2 to 3 years. So AI is like got more popular, especially in last 2 to 3 years. Majority of the conversations have always been around what AI can do. Can AI write code? Can AI write test? Can AI do this? Can AI do something else? Can AI create an entire application? And what agents can do? There has never been much discussion about how much is AI going to cost us. The reason for that was most AI that we have used, all of the people, even in enterprises, that was all subsidized AI. Big tech people who have pumped in millions and trillions of money so that this large scale adoption of AI technology can happen. Now, this free lunch is going to stop. It has already started to stop for providers like GitHub Copilot and so on. And now the real cost of AI is going to come in. So till now, what people were doing was they had like infinite access to the best models. They could just send in query. Even if they had an error, they will again send a query and they will let the foundational models do the work. And they can use the best models. Opus 4.7 was available almost like for $40 per month. And you could like query it as many times as you want. Now the real cost of AI is coming in, and which now makes it very interesting because now if AI is going to cost, you need sustainable practices. Otherwise, you'll just waste more money and create something less useful. For example, if somebody doesn't understand the nuances, doesn't understand the craft, and they are just prompting, probably they just burn token of let's say $10, $20, and nothing comes out of it, and that's a loss. And then companies will start tracking and taking care of it. Like for example, Uber, I think in April they said that by from January to April they exhausted their entire AI budget that they had for this year. And
Yeah.
now if this kind of things keeps on happening, then people would want a funnel, a quality strategy, a strategy to like really know when you can use a premier frontier model, when you have to probably use or do with a free like average model which can just do average task, when you have to use your brain to do half the work and then give it to AI, and when you probably you are the only one who has to do the work. So I mean you have to strategize, and once I think conversations about real cost of AI comes in, I mean these things will automatically follow. They have already started following in my organization, where we are now discussing that what AI to use for what kind of task, and where probably like we don't need AI.
Yeah.
But till now, AI was like just free lunch. It was like available for free. Nobody talks about the energy consequence of AI, the cost consequence of AI, but they are now coming in. Interesting times will follow. I think the times will change. Uh, Absolute vibe coding can be a disaster if you don't understand technology and if you just prompt that make me a good game. For example, we did this AI guardrails masterclass, and
Yeah.
I had like, of course, I had used a lot of models to help me create the game, but I had a lot of idea about what I want to create, how I want to design this game, and so on. And without that, like the models would have just burned tokens. So I mean, unless you can synergize really well, and to do that, you have to have all those skills. You cannot get something meaningful out of it. It's AI is an amplifier, and if like you don't have substance, it will just amplify garbage, and it will be a costly garbage.
Yeah. And as you say, like, because businesses depend on it, like you say, like the Uber example, say when you run out of tokens so early on, and so many platforms are being tied to token usage, and
Yeah,
it's hard to predict at the moment how they will be used. But there's definitely like engineering managers out there like struggling, I guess, to sleep at night because they're worried that the tokens are going to run out. It's like, what do you do when
yeah,
the tokens run out for a service that you're using one third of the month in, and you've got 20 more days, and how does that impact the whole business, the whole user experience, and how things run. Um, and yeah, I guess have you come across anything where people are sharing about what to build with AI and what not to build? Because I feel like maybe people default as, oh, I can just use AI for this, but maybe they don't need to. Maybe are there any like models or
yeah,
um, frameworks that are coming up of like when to use AI and when not to?
yeah. So essentially, I mean, as technology people, as knowledge workers, I think there is a spectrum of work that we do. So at one end, there is a lot of algorithmic work, which is can be defined in a set of steps. For example, this is what we have to do when we have to probably record a podcast. Maybe create a link, send the link to the other person, send them a reminder, ask them 10 minutes back, are they joining, and so on. This is kind of algorithmic work. Then, at the opposite side of this spectrum, there is a lot of creative work. For example, doing presentations, or talking to people, or exploratory testing, or like diving deep into things, observing things. And these are not algorithmic things. You cannot define them that this is only how I'm going to do it. And they are very creative in nature. Now AI is awesome at the algorithmic part of things, but AI is just going to burn more, and it's like riding up the hill. If you are like burning AI for like really creative tasks, of course you can use AI to help you with the like with ideas or refining your own ideas. But then if you like delegate the creative things totally to AI probably cannot, like, will probably burn more and give you less. At the same time, there is another spectrum of our work, which is a lot of the work that we do is very siloed in nature, which is like we can do alone. But then there is also another spectrum of work which is very social in nature, which we do as a team together. And AI is best when the work is algorithmic and siloed. For example, writing code, writing test, writing documentation, these are all algorithmic and siloed work. And AI is best at these things. AI is even good at things where the work is algorithmic but little social in nature. For example, managing our team meeting notes, action items, doing all of that. AI can help us there also to some degree. AI can even help to some degree where like work is siloed and creative, so that like where there you can like ask AI that is this idea good, help it to refine, help it to critique you, and so on. But like this space where like things are very social and things are very creative, this is the space where like humans have to own the things. For example, product management, or like talking to customers, talking to real uh, marketing folks, sales folks, what are the real problems, converting those problems into real requirements that like map to some business value, and these are like real uh, areas for humans to master. So I mean, this social creative aspect is, I think, where like humans have a lot of value, and like this siloed algorithmic part is where like AI has a lot of value.
I like that distinction between the algorithmic and the social. It's quite helpful. Um, I think a few things that I've been reading recently is like that perhaps ties into that is like I'm seeing people, or even we're kind of doing this internally, is using AI to help us get certain things done that we're doing it quicker because we have AI, so we can like analyze data, or for us at MOT is like dive into content quicker, pull out good sources, help us get to the points quicker. Or other people I've seen, like they're creating designs or mock-ups not to use as a product but as a tool for communication as well, right? It's like they have an idea, and then AI can help them put that idea quickly
Yes.
into something that then they pass over to someone else, but it's built in a silo. It's not meant to be a finished product at all.
Yes.
But
Yes.
instead of like having a meeting or having conversations about it, or slacking, or drawing, creating a mind map or a wireframe, it's like they now using AI to help with that communication
Yeah.
aspect. So it's almost like you know communication on steroids to some extent,
Yeah.
but it's just still in a silo. And it's like perhaps it's that siloed angle is like we're being more efficient, we can
Yeah.
get things done quicker, but it's that silo aspect perhaps also enables quality, right? It's not a
Yeah.
final product, it's a draft, it's
Yeah.
a work in progress that is a step towards whatever you're working to.
And this realization that like this is a starting point, not an ending point, is very important. And especially with junior people entering the industry, I see this as a big problem, because sometimes they feel that like AI has given them something and that's the end point. But I think like you have to always treat AI as a starting point, the output that AI gives, and then you have to do the actual chef work and garnishing work and polishing work and so on. So yeah.
And then, like as you say, it's like it's the human aspect that becomes the hard part, right? It's like,
Yes.
oh yes, we have these great ideas, but now we actually have to think about how to actually implement it
Yes.
in a way that is safe, that is good for customers, that makes
Yes.
makes business sense, and those are all aspects that AI, I don't think at the moment can really help, at least yet. Who knows in the
Yeah.
future? But
I mean, like this Weinberg Secret of Consulting, I love that book, which says that like no matter how they say it, it's always a people's problem.
yeah,
And no matter what problem are you trying to solve, at the end of the day, it's a people's problem. Be it a
absolutely.
technological solution or something. I mean, and even like AI could like penetrate so well because it solved the people's problem of like not willing to learn AI, but then like now AI is so usable and so much available that now people can use it, and that was why AI became so widespread. So I mean, if you can solve real people's problem, I mean, then like you can really make a business and really give some value.
What are some ideas from like a qualities perspective that you would maybe advise people to experiment with current AI tooling? Like for example, Claude. I guess that's a tool I'm somewhat familiar with. Is that how could they use Claude to help them with the smaller siloed tasks that we kind of discussed?
Okay. So, for example, I mean, the step 101 is like identify what are the small siloed tasks that you have. The second part is, for example, now taking an example of Claude. Claude has an interesting concept called artifacts. So, artifacts are small things or use cases that Claude has created or published, which are available for you to see that what all areas you can extend Claude and like create something. So first step is go and do experimentation. First is explore artifacts and see if any of your case can map to an artifact. This is actually how I started my experimentations with Claude. So I started to look at like these are the possibilities that Claude can do, and then I started mapping my own ideas to those possibilities. And Claude and all these good models are very good with that. If you have a good idea and you want to like you share that like this is the artifact and I want this idea to be mixed into this artifact, then it can create something for you. So that's like step 101. Do that. The second part that I feel everybody should do is that personalize Claude for you. For example, now Claude has three modes. So one is the code mode, one is the chat mode, and third is the co-work mode. Now, I have been experimenting with this co-work mode a lot. The co-work mode actually allows you to create dedicated markdown files for your persona, for your goals, for your quality strategies, for your product. You can define it so that every time you use co-work, all of those things get loaded into the Cloud co-works context. And now like if you set it with the right kind of quality description, your product description, your risks, then the responses that you get from this will be very personalized compared to you using normal chat modes or normal API modes or normal code mode. So personalize these AIs for yourself. I think that's where like real value lies in. And once you learn how to personalize it, then you can always like kind of fit that personalization into maybe an agent, maybe a skill, maybe a sub agent, or maybe a agentic AI solution. But learn how to personalize or engineer this tool. The good part with Claude is that like a lot of these examples are already documented as artifacts, and then like once you start playing with them, you learn a lot more. And I think that's also a very good starting point because low friction, low barrier, you can just execute it quickly, see and experiment.
Yeah, we've started a little bit. Simon's been doing most of it so far, but so we're trying to think of how can we be more efficient from MOT community perspective with the things that we need to do. So, like, I think like an important thing to make AI work is tie it into what actually needs to be done. Right, the work you're doing day to day, and we're looking at our work that we do every day, and we're trying to think of how can we use AI to either be quicker or to do better. So one of the things is like our glossary. It's like it could be never ending, like the amount of things that we could add to it. And I know we always miss stuff, but we're currently kind of trying to pull transcripts from sessions and then using Claude skills to uh, check what glossary entries we have and create some either based on what people have said, if they've defined it in the transcript, or if they haven't, it could write a glossary entry for us, and then it produces an output of 10, 20 words from one session that we can then at the moment manually add it in, but we could probably automate that to some extent as well. But we've gone from like maybe not adding or getting out of the habit of always adding glossary entries into now having potentially 10 or 20 items that we could add after each
Correct. Correct.
session. Yeah.
And I mean, I was like really impressed because after my last masterclass, I saw like they like say Simon added five new terms, and I was like, wow, like how was he noting down all these terms which I was talking about? And then when I clicked on those glossaries, I even found that the description was from like what I was saying. So I was like that, like how quickly has Simon probably processed this transcript, and from there he has picked this. But see, this is the right kind of like usage, and this is a
Yeah.
very if you think about it, it was a very siloed and algorithmic task. I mean, it was like very
Yeah.
hard to look into transcript, very siloed. Somebody has to put in so much effort, and this is where like AI can do the best wonders. And you
Yeah.
like identified something from that quadrant, you implemented it, it's giving good results. And now, like
Yeah.
because you are like highly responsible. You're right now reviewing it, uploading it manually. That's like even maintaining the quality. In
Yeah.
general, I mean, to be really honest, like glossary is one of the best resources on like testing terms that I know of. So I, like
Yeah.
anywhere I go, like I usually share that with people, and they like find amazing things. And I'm happy that like now the glossary auto expands, and this is like a creative, good use of AI. And I think
Yeah.
this kind of use we have to encourage more or find more, because that will give us that 10x leverage. And then like areas where we should be responsible, I think like then we have to separate those areas which are different. And yeah, that's true. But
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, and it's almost mind blowing. It's like we've done that. This is all very recent, but then if we think about all the historical talks and sessions and courses that we've done, and we've only done it for a few, a few masterclasses or talks, but if we could backdate that process to all our
All,
content at some
yes.
point, and what that could generate as a result, it's like
Yeah.
my mind goes like, oh, this is so
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
And tag and give credit to the people. It's not just about filling it up with glossary terms. It's also about sharing what people and tagging them and giving them credit from their perspective. So there's a whole variety of ways to think about tech and testing and quality, um, and pulling them out. I think for us, I think is super interesting to pull out the data, the individual bits of data, almost like siloed bits of data, which I think perhaps AI is quite good at.
Good
It's
at
like
it.
we
Yeah.
can pull out
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
glossary terms, for example, or we can pull out good quotes is another thing we're kind of working on. And to me, that's where AI is quite useful for us. It's like siloed bits of data
Yeah.
that normally people would just like not have the time to
Yeah.
source or think about, or maybe they need reminding of it, or maybe they can't listen to a talk, but maybe we can just extract a few good things out to help people get the highlights of it. And that's, yeah, I guess I'm thinking about it like that, like from a community and knowledge perspective. It's like people don't have the time to attend talks or listen to all the podcasts, but we can help them process the information in a different way. So for me, I'm excited about it from
Yeah.
that perspective.
You even shared like a interesting possibility with me. I mean, I could never think that like even like community or knowledge management could leverage AI at this level. And I mean, even interesting ideas for me, to be really honest, that like how we can probably use AI to create certain kind of stepping stones for people to learn
Yeah,
things better. I think yeah, that's really awesome. Thanks, Rosie, for sharing that.
that's all right. But also, like, I guess building products is there's a lot of knowledge within products as well. So
Yes.
it's like, how do we, is AI a good tool to help us manage the knowledge? How do we document things? How do we, ensure that there's a transcript for what we're talking about, so that we can maybe AI can help us refer back to how we make decisions. But I do think there's something in that as products mature, as like documentation ends up becoming more important. But to have the documentation, you have to have the conversations. But then there's the whole tracking of it, and then using all that data within the organization to help you build better products as well. So, and then like if AI tooling is feeding into that data, then that becomes so important to keep up to date or keep accurate. And that ends up becoming a quality
Correct.
angle as well. It's like,
Correct.
it's the data that we're creating as an organization, how is that being used, or if it's been underused, or what's missing. And that's, partly that ties into like the community knowledge stuff. If you think of like business as a community, I think all the conversations we have as a business, all the meetings we have, if the transcripts are recorded, are they stored anywhere, and can we use those to help us build better products? Um, can we use it to extract glossary terms for the business to show
Yes,
like our common understanding of like when we say this is what it
this is
means?
what we mean. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. There's the human aspect through conversational data. I think is quite quite interesting, quite human, right? That's the human aspect.
Yes, and really interesting aspect. Uh, and somehow I think the future also lies in like this synergetic value that like we as humans and AI, how can we create this synergetic value? Because AI without humans or like uh, with like without the right purpose to serve a human, I mean that's like not that useful. From another thing that like I am doing from product perspective is that now I have started to leverage AI to create diagrams of like various product modules that we have. So like people have built amazing enterprise systems for let's say for my company. A lot of developers come in, they go out and so on, and a lot of wisdom lies just in the code, that like its legacy and so on. And now we are feeding these modules, we are integrating with AI systems and converting them, or like like creating documentation out of them, which is more in a visual format, and AI can do that. For example, we have like started creating ASCII diagrams which like just plot that this is the module which connects to this and this, and then it like we even write that like if there are any exceptions, write that down or plot it there, that like, these are exceptions or reasons and so on. And like that's a real value that we get. And now we also use those diagrams for our debriefing sessions, or like giving KT to new members who are joining us. And that's really powerful, because uh, till now, I mean, most engineers like always were very hesitant in like doing documentation. They used to see it as like boring work, but now that like you have a free assistant or like a cheap assistant to do all the documentation in the styles that you want, and like share it across. So yeah, that's really powerful.
I love that. It's all the boring work, right? And I think
Yeah.
there's actually quite a lot of boring work that we don't have to spend the time
Yes. So a
doing
lot
it.
of
And
boring work delegated, and the output is interesting work. So you can use
yeah,
AI as an engine to convert your boring work into interesting work. For
yeah,
example, like learning about guardrails could be like boring because so many categories, so many levels, so many types. But then you use AI, convert it into a game, and that's an interesting work. So you can even use AI as a converter, boring to interesting. Yeah,
yeah,
because like humans want interesting work, and that what engages humans.
yeah. It's true. And yeah, I love that aspect. Any efficiency gains, any things to see things visually. I've found AI quite helpful, just to even if it's just to help me look at something from a different perspective that I hadn't quite thought about. And maybe there's even things like personas that you could create and say, look at it from the perspective of a user, or
Yeah.
a supplier, or
Mm.
different types of users, I guess, as well. I think that's it gets fun to play with and to
Yeah.
be creative. I think it's a creative angle that
Yeah.
could be, yeah, very very interesting. What do you see as upcoming trends? I guess maybe to wrap up a little bit here, but there was a company last year that I noticed who AI type company, and they were creating a testing tool. And then they reached out. We had a couple of conversations, but never went any further than that. And I forgot about them, and then I looked at them just this week, and I was like, oh wow, they had a testing tool last year, and now they've completely pivoted to something else. Um, so like the market's still changing a lot. I think a lot of companies are still trying to figure out like what to build. Do you have any thoughts around that, or where things might be going?
I think we will all, I mean, this world will all converge to a lot of consolidation, because right now what is happening is like there are like base AI providers, and then there are people who are building just directly on top of that. And if you're like just building something uh, which doesn't have much moat, which means like you're like using foundational model and just trying to do something little bit on top of that. Then the foundational layer, if it's a big business value, they can quickly come up with the next version where like they even capture that aspect. And that's the reason why every new Claude update kills like, let's say, 10 products or 20 products and so on, because a lot of
Yeah.
these 10 or 20 products were just wrappers built on top of like previous Claude models, and now the Claude by default supports it. So it's like that proposition that like probably there are a lot of base applications that every operating system can provide, and maybe like right now we are in a situation where like every application is now a product, but probably like a lot of these offerings will come directly with the operating system, for example the Claude, because LLMs are also becoming like an operating system. They will give some basic interfaces, applications, add-ins, plugins and so on by default with themselves. For example, now Claude gives integration with all Office products, with PowerPoint, with like your IDs and so on, and that's like 101. But then, for example, now think of another tool. For example, I use Xmind a lot for mind mapping, and they have their own system and stuff for that. So you can use Claude with Xmind, and now for Claude to really make a tool and engineer a tool, mind mapping tool with so much ease of work, it's a hard job, because it's then like trying to replicate entire Xmind. So I think these two kind of products will can like exist together, and they will find a way to connect. For example, MCPs is one of the way, or skills will be another way where these will connect and coexist. So if like a tools have moat, unique advantage, unique competitor advantage, they will exist. But if they are just wrappers, all wrappers will probably erase off in the next coming 2 years. We will go towards mass consolidation, and I think for people who are like even building tools, think about like what is that unique competitive advantage or that delta that you can create, which probably these foundational companies or like other base platforms can never do. And if like that delta you can crack, like you can build some value out of it.
Yeah. It makes it hard, right? I guess if new tools are coming out, it's like how do you adopt them with confidence? And
Yes.
I guess
Yes.
yeah, it's a hard.
Yes.
You
Yes.
almost have to give them a bit of time to
Yes.
test the market as well, I guess. But it's definitely a lot of interesting stuff happening, a lot of movement. Um, but yeah, just to wrap up, any final words? Anything you wanted to say that we might not have covered?
Uh, I think we at Ministry of Testing, we are actively doing a lot of work to help community level up on AI. We have started this AI chapter. Uh, Join it. We will be doing a lot of events, maybe group learnings, conversations, and so on. And I think that's very important. I mean, and it's free to join, which is the best part. So anybody can join it. If you have a curiosity and hunger, we are there to help you, and we are there to support you. So. Yeah.
Amazing. I'm looking forward to it and getting more done. But yeah, thank you very much, Rahul, and I'll see you in the MoTaverse
Yeah, see you in the Warmers.
as we go like that.